It's spinning. Looks like we're ready to go. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling Podcast. And today we have two experts on selling, productivity, and mindset, because selling in a lot of ways is the easiest profession in the world if it wasn't for our own mindset that sometimes gets in the way when we're actually mapping our realities onto other people. It's like, well, Angela, that might be too much for Angela. I shouldn't say that. And I have no idea who Angela is or what she does. We make up these stories. And so it's our mindset gets in the way. And so thank you so much for coming on the show so we can chat about how we can help salespeople and leaders become better, stronger, faster. Marjorie, welcome to the program. Do a quick intro, then we'll go to Angela. Marjorie, can you hear me? Angela, can you hear me?
I can, but it cut out for a second, so I apologize.
No worries. Marjorie, why don't you do an introduction?
Hi, I'm Marjorie Dudley. I'm a sales and...
I'm sorry. It looks like the technology is getting out of... is it like being really choppy?
It's a little choppy on my end. It wasn't before when we were talking, but it is now.
How about for you, Angela? Is it choppy for you?
No, not at all.
Well, that's the magic of technology. Cool. So go for it, Marjorie. We're going to, in editing, we'll fix it.
We'll fix it all in the magic of editing. I'm Marjorie Dudley. I am a sales and leadership coach with Southwestern Consulting. And I work with business owners, sales leaders, sales professionals all over the country to build the habits and the mindset and all the things that they need to build to have the business and life of their dreams. And I love doing it. I'm here in sunny Southwest Florida. And I have 2 kids, married, and we're loving Florida. We moved here about 2 years ago, and it's sunny and 84 right now.
We hate you. We're in Toronto.
Right?
Angela, welcome to the program. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure thing. So thanks for having me. First off, Imar, I'm an integrative productivity coach. I work with entrepreneurs and sales professionals on understanding how their emotion, energy, time, and focus feed into creating their own natural productive flow. And my husband and I have 5 kids, 4 adults, 1 9-year-old, 3 big dogs, an RV, and we don't live in the RV, but we have it. It's fun. And yeah, that's us. We're in North Georgia, just outside of Atlanta.
Brilliant. Today I'm in foggy and cold Toronto, Canada. And so sales, it's nothing happens in the world unless somebody sells something, whether it's an idea, whether it's one of your kids, Angela, that wants to go to a sleepover. They're great salespeople, aren't they? And sometimes as kids, we're fearless and we know the strategies, which parent to talk to and how to talk to them to get the results that we want. But somewhere along the way, all of a sudden we start second guessing ourselves and our mindset gets in the way. What's one tip that you use, Marjorie, to change mindset so you can become braver and do the things you need to do to close accounts?
One of the things that's been actually coming up quite a bit recently, both with my clients and actually even with my own coach, is the concept of curating your mindset. And what I mean by curating your mindset is really being intentional and almost, aggressive about what we are feeding it, what we're allowing in. Audiobooks are one of my favorite go-tos. Some people might love podcasts. This one certainly is a great one. And YouTube videos. But how are we intentionally ensuring that we're giving our mind the food that it needs to deliver the results that we want to deliver? And so often our mind is actually not our friend, at least not on its default setting. Listening to a book right now, The Comfort Crisis, and they're relating it a lot to hunger and things like that, but how your mind becomes not your friend when you get hungry and you go for the highest calorie or the most dense food item. in sales, I think there's some truth there as well, that your mind cannot be your friend sometimes. And so how are we curating our mindset with the things that we listen to, with the things we choose to say out loud and to ourselves? That's been
Brilliant.
a big theme.
Angela, to you, same question.
Repeat the question for me.
So how do we change our mindset so that we can actually get the things done that we need to do?
Yeah. So I tend to go to a much deeper space with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, productivity is rooted in emotion. And that's what I teach. And I've seen this in sales over and over and over, that people who choose sales as a career usually are coming from a space of wanting freedom. And they want freedom and self-control. And a lot of that comes from childhood experiences of feeling like they didn't have control over what was happening around them. And they kind of left childhood with these stories of, I'm not capable, I'm not good enough, I'm not deserving, or I'm too much or not enough. And when you come from childhood with those stories and you're like, nope, I'm going to prove to everybody that I can make it, and sales is going to be my ticket there, right? And so they go into sales. And then those same stories that they heard through childhood are the same stories that show up in their mind when it's time for them to pick up the phone and make a connection. And so what's happening is they have to understand where these stories are coming from, and they have to relate the story to what it is that they actually want to achieve. Why are they actually in sales? What is their end goal? Because usually when we're thinking sales, we're thinking, okay, we're thinking numbers, we're thinking money, and money is not our motivating factor. Money is it's a means to an end. And we have to really look at what our end goal actually is. What experiences do we want to create in our life? How do we want to grow? How do we want to contribute? And when we understand those things, then we can backtrack that by creating a motivating force that actually drives our idea of wanting to contribute what it is that we're selling, our product, our service, whatever, to this other person on the other side, because we want to change their lives. We want to positively impact them. And so when we understand that about ourselves, and we understand the stories that are saying, you can't impact them, you can't make a difference in their lives. When we start to rewrite those stories, really pull them out and look at them and rewrite them, understand where they came from, then it's a natural shift in our mindset. And then that has a ripple effect that leads into our sales, and then our impact from the sales that we make, both personally and the people that we're working with.
So there are people that money is the motivator. I know people that are highly successful, and the
Sales
number
hunters.
one value
Absolutely.
is money. And money is a number to them, and they just want to do more and more. And they're not bad people. They're amazing people, but they know who they are and they know what drives them. So why don't we go back to you, Angela? Our relationship with money is, for many people, is a challenging one, because money isn't just money, it's emotions.
Yes. Yeah. So what happens is, a lot of times where the stories that we heard in childhood were created by the limitations that our parents had. So if your parent thought, well, I'm not good enough, I'm too much, I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy, or, let's say this is my role in life, this is my career, this is what I do. And maybe that didn't provide as much for their family as they would have liked. Then that feeds into the child that then grows up. And then they feel like, well, that's all I'm capable of. That's all I really am. And if people look deeply into me, that's all they're going to see is this. And then we have these bigger dreams and these bigger visions. But when we think in terms of having money that's greater than where we came from, then a lot of times we feel this sense of, even sometimes, a feeling of betrayal. If we earn this money, are we betraying the family that we came from? Are we making their life somehow like they couldn't provide as much as now I can. And then there's the idea of, if I have this money, then am I showing off? There's so many different things that you can tie into money that don't necessarily feed into what it is you're actually trying to achieve. You may have like this big heart and you're out there trying and motivated by the impact that you want to make, but it's hard for people to associate that impact with money if they see money as part of their negative story. And when they start to relate the money to being a tool or a resource that can actually drive them towards making a bigger impact, that's when they start to relate money in a different way. But the biggest thing was, I'm sorry.
So all of that is like, it depends on the individual. What you're doing is broad brushstrokes generally, but individuals are individuals, and sometimes money is a motivator, and sometimes, it's the relationship where you came from, and sometimes not, right? You can have people that come from a lot of money and a lot of wealth and also get negative beliefs around money.
Absolutely.
How about for you, Marjorie? You work with a lot of salespeople, and people have a financial thermostat. And sometimes when they earn less than their thermostat is set, they'll do whatever it takes to get there. And if they go beyond that, sometimes they'll sabotage themselves to kind of get back to it. So how do you help people adjust that thermostat so they can actually achieve the goals they want to achieve?
The thermostat is often one self-concept. And so the self-concept drives that which we'll tolerate. It drives that which we're willing to do to get the thing that we want. It also drives what we interpret to be our purpose, which, I think to a lot of what Angela is saying, it's very emotional in nature. So if one wants to change that thermostat to not, if on a scale of 1 to 10, if your money concept's a 6, if you're a 4, you're going to bust your butt to get to a 6. But the second you start seeing 8 level money success, you're going to sabotage back down to a 6. What we have to actually work on is again, kind of to use that word curating that mindset to change that self-concept, to dismantle some of the beliefs, the ideas, the stories that led to that self-concept, at least the parts of it that aren't serving us, and to intentionally work toward developing, identifying, and creating a story and a self-concept that's more in supportive of what we're put on this earth to do. So it's a lot bigger than just a sale. It's a lot bigger than just an income level. It really does go back into purpose. And I'm a woman of faith. So, why were we put on this planet? There's something a lot bigger than just the paycheck, but really a spirit of, how are we here to grow and serve? How are we serving the people that we come in contact with, and how are we personally growing? And the two are linked. It's impossible to grow without service, and it's impossible to serve without growing. So working on really tapping into that core purpose and that thing that's bigger than ourselves, even bigger than our own families, even bigger than a career or an income level.
Okay, so why do you think, here's a fact that just kind of blew me away. In America, arguably the richest country in the world, if you happen to be a homeless person and you have a cup and you've got $10 in the cup, you're richer than 50% of all Americans. Now, keep in mind, those Americans have homes and mortgages and other stuff, and they have great lives, but the debt versus how much they actually have, the delta is less than $10. So how do you think we get to that? Because in our media, in our drive, we're entrepreneurs and we make things happen. Where does that disconnect come from, Angela? I know we touched on some of it, but why is it so prevalent still?
Well, I think that you're kind of opening up a wormhole with that.
Big.
Yeah, I could go on for days about this. You're getting me up on a soapbox, and I'm not going to go there, but because we have limited time. But I'll say that there is a lot of collective stuff that has happened in the world and in the country, specifically in the United States, that have stemmed off of the Industrial Revolution, that have created a specific concept of what your life is supposed to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And we're shifting that right now. And you see that more people are turning away from the conventional means of living your life and having your life experience. And they're saying, well, what if, and then that what if is leading them into other directions. And so now you'll see that more people are starting to create more of a life that is what they feel they truly want. And instead of saying, well, this is what I'm supposed to have, if that makes sense. So I feel like that's something that's shifting right now collectively. But there is that huge dichotomy of you'll have someone who's homeless on the streets, and you'll have somebody who's comfortable in a, kind of that middle suburban type of lifestyle, and they're not that far apart. Because
in terms of net worth, yeah.
Yes, because one thing that I saw in the real estate industry very specifically, in let's say 2007, 2008, was the real estate market completely tanked.
Mm-hmm.
And that hit the financial industry, the real estate industry, all of it, right? And I remember I was volunteering with a group of women that I volunteered with, and we were putting on this big event for the homeless shelter downtown. Mm-hmm. And so we got there, and we were, this is before we did the event, we were planning for it, and we were at the homeless shelter, and they were giving us a tour and introducing us to some of the residents. And one of the residents, it was a couple, and they had both been in the mortgage industry. They had a big house, they had 2 nice cars, and the mortgage industry died with the real estate industry, and they found themselves in the homeless shelter. I mean, it was that fast. And it's because of, I think personally, a lot of the systems that we have put into place that don't speak to who we are as humans, as individuals. And we kind of try to create our lives according to the system of what is supposed to be, instead of going into a direction of really truly asking ourselves, what is it that we want to experience in our lives?
Brilliant. And Marjorie, why do you think it's so difficult, that relationship with money, wealth, because it's all around sales? Because for sales, we have a lot of beliefs around selling and salespeople, and most of those beliefs are negative. And we have a lot of negative beliefs around money. And as salespeople, we get to do both, right? We get to ask for money, and we get to be salespeople. And so how do we change that mindset so that we can actually let go of the past and get the job done? Because you're right, because most salespeople are there for brilliant reasons. I want to help people do better, companies do better. And we go in and we sell, and sometimes we don't show up as powerfully as we want, because all of that stuff happening in our mindset.
Yeah.
So what's another tool you'd recommend?
I think people that have a negative view of sales and salespeople have bought into a lie. It's like having a negative view of teachers because there's a few bad teachers out there, having a negative view of doctors because there's a few bad doctors out there.
Let me push back just a little bit. I can have a room of 150 salespeople, and I can say, please finish this sentence for me. And on one side of the room, I'll have a flip chart with a green pen. And on the other side, I have a flip chart with a red pen. And finish this sentence for me, please. Salespeople are, and somebody goes, outgoing, right, in the green pen. They are driven, they're motivated. And after about 7 or 8 positive attributes, then someone says, are sleazy, are trustworthy, and the negative list is larger than the positive. And this is a room full of salespeople. And then someone says, wait a minute, that's not us, but they're the beliefs around society that we have around selling. And so that's something we have to contend with. It's a lie, I agree, but even salespeople have those things inside their head. And that's one of the things that sets that financial thermostat and how well you do.
Again, it may be a majority, and they may be able to come up with a faster, but it doesn't change the fact that it's a lie that people have bought into. There's ethical sales just as there's unethical sales. There's ethical physicians just as there's unethical physicians. And so if someone is feeling that state of being pushy or being sleazy or whatever the negative words are, then that's from a story that they've repeated to themselves.
Get that, but how do we get rid of that story is what I'm asking. Is that it's in society, it's in us, and how do we let go of those stories because it's a lie and actually get back into what we need to do and actually reach our potential?
Well, what are they saying to themselves to overwrite that story? I would challenge that someone that's buying into that hasn't gone to work overwriting that story. I can think of a lot of things that I've purchased over the years that I'm really glad that I purchased. I can think of a lot of, what was that?
Oh, we all have, like,
yeah. I guess I have a hard time relating to that because I've been in sales for 20 plus years, and I've been around so many amazing salespeople that lie or that story doesn't travel in my headspace.
Let me ask it a different way. In any sales team, you would have A players, walk on water, do amazing things. You got B players that know just as much as the A's, but they never quite reach it. And then you got C players. So the question is, why do B players stay B players? Because they have the same skill set, the same drive, but something stops them from stepping up into A's. And I guess that's what I wanted to chat about in this conversation today is how do we help those B players that are doing a good job, but not achieving greatness? Like what gets in the way of them doing that?
A lot of times mindset and the way you change your mindset is changing what you listen to, changing what you say to yourself intentionally. There's so many great books. One of my favorite is the Power of Consistency by Weldon Long. And some people have followed, The Secret and some of those different manifesting books, which that's a whole nother conversation. And it maybe never made sense to them. But what the Power of Consistency really talks about is intentionally building a plan where you work on your mindset every single day. If you want to get physically strong, it would be wild to think you could get physically strong without doing something to build muscle every single day in terms of nutrition and, whether you use weight training or whatever. And here we want a strong mindset. And how many of us, and I've been guilty of this in different seasons of my life too. So it's not coming from a place of perfection, but recognizing a universal truth that if you want something to get stronger, you have to intentionally build it. So building affirmations and beliefs, curating and dwelling on the positive stories from our own successes in our own life. Psycho-Cybernetics is another book that I just love. And he was referencing some statistics about people that are not hitting their goals, those B players that you were talking about, or even those C players, tend to replay their failures at an exponentially greater rate than they replay their successes, versus people who are replaying their successes, are intentionally cultivating thoughts around their successes, thoughts around how they get better. Another great book in the space is Mindset by Carol Dweck, backed with tons of research. Everything has to do with what we're saying to ourselves intentionally, what we're listening to, what we allow, what we tolerate in terms of conversations. And the second you turn on the switch of not allowing a negative self-talk, I had a client recently say, I'm just not good at, and they rattled off something or other. And I was like, whoa, let's talk about that. And we caught it in the moment that even just the fact of reiterating, I'm not good at, is in a sense giving your mind a cue to continue to find and seek and find evidence that you're not good at, instead of building a way to become better at, instead of building a methodology, a belief around being competent at said thing. So even being aware of those little things that come out of our mouth of I'm not good at, or, oh, I'll never, or they just, had that because, right? All these little verbal things that we say. So what we listen to, what we think, what we say.
So, Angela, before we part company today, why don't you share a quick client story of taking someone from where they were and where you got them?
Okay, sure. So when it comes to sales specifically, I believe that there are sales hunters and there are sales matchers, and they're just two different styles. I don't believe in A, B, C players. And so I'll give you an example of someone who was defined as a C player. Would have been a Z player if that was a thing, right? But she really was just a sales matcher. And so this was in a real estate office, and she was extremely meticulous, very well educated, very caring for her clients and the people that she worked with. She did an excellent job with absolutely every single piece of her work. And it was very important to her that she did a good job. But she was also the person who showed up and brought candy in the office and fresh baked breads and casseroles and things like this. And she's just a very warm, loving, caring, nurturing individual. And so what happens, though, is that in sales, the sales trainers are taught to focus on the top 20%. And sales training is designed to focus on the top 20%. So you have these other people who don't resonate with that style of selling. And then all of a sudden they think that they're not capable, they're not worthy. And so she was a really strong example of that. And so what happened was I actually went with her on one of her listing appointments to see, just to shadow her, see what she was doing. And she did a wonderful job. The body language of the people where they were leaning in, they were open, they were excited to talk to her, they're smiling, they're nodding their head, they're giving all the big positive cues. And then right before she got to the part where she was talking about her commission, she actually apologized and said, "I'm really sorry. We usually charge 6%. I know that's a lot. I can do it for 4%. And she just started to trip over her words and just really start to drag it out. And she lost them. They sat back, they folded their arms, they got really confused. And you could see it, like, wait a minute, like everything was great. And then when she started apologizing for actually charging them, it was a problem. And she walked away without the listing. They said, "We'll think about it. We have other agents we're interviewing." And that's where it left off. And so I was working with her on her style of selling and on building up her self-worth based around showing her how the individual traits that she was showing in caring and nurturing for people and how well she had educated herself so that she was so knowledgeable and really able to support people. I was putting her value in front of her like a mirror and showing her how she stood out from the sales hunters who were more about the instant sale and then moving on, and not about creating the connection and the bond or putting the strong efforts into really learning their trade to the level that she had. And so when I did that, and she was able to really build up that level of self-confidence and self-awareness around what she did have to offer, she showed up in the office with a 10% listing commission. 10%. When she ordinarily kind of the usual charge was 6%, and she was apologizing and taking 4%, she came in with a 10% one. And the difference was her belief in her value and her ability to express that value vocally.
Brilliant. So Angela, how can people get a hold of you?
Sure. You can go to productiveflow.com and you can learn all about our products and services specifically for entrepreneurs and salespeople.
Brilliant. We're going to put your info in the show notes. And for you, Marjorie, what's a client story for you, a success story?
So specific, do you want to be specific to mindset and belief, or do you want?
Dealer's choice.
Dealer's choice. Oh boy. I'm thinking of a financial advisor who, and we're not financial advisor specific, but this particular individual works with a lot of high net worth individuals. And she was really good at, or is really amazing at making these connections. But one of the biggest obstacles was allowing negativity to creep in and just be all consuming. So much so that it would creep into, productivity creep, energy creep, and really affect her, honestly, the
Are you saying she
conversations
was
that would
creepy? Never mind. Please go
she
on.
would no, she's not creepy, but she would let the negativity creep and really overtake our mindset. So, back to Angela's original point, the power of the stories that we tell each other, it felt so personal that it actually had a ripple effect and impacted activity and passion and purpose and vision and goals. It impacted the productivity habits and the prospecting habits that she had. And so a lot of what we have worked on, and I love working with this individual, we've been working together for several years, is again, building up that mindset fortress that allows her to really roll with the punches. She is an A-type individual, but really rolling with the punches so that she can be her best self every day. So when our mindset is on fire, when our activity is on fire, when our communication is genuine and sincere, when we sincerely want to help people, we really are unstoppable in sales. It doesn't mean you'll win everything, but it does mean that you are engaging with people in the right way, that the people that are a right fit for your product and service will find you and will.
How do people get a hold of you, Marjorie?
You can find me at Marjorie Dudley, my first name, last name, MarjorieDudleySWC.com.
Brilliant. Thanks for being on the show today. And dear listeners and viewers, thank you so much for tuning in to the episode of No Limit Selling. If you like it, please subscribe to the podcast. And you can find me, Umar Hamid, at mindsetboosters.com. Have a great day. And thanks so much for tuning in.